Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Nicola Marchesi, and I'm a purchasing specialist for Prodotti Gianni. And today I'm happy to introduce this event. It is also a great pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Sabrina Friederichs, which is a product manager for at Capricorn Scientifica, which is the cell culture company that we represent from the beginning of the year. Sabrina has a great experience in cell culture and biotechnology, and today she will share with us her knowledge for the use of FBS and how it will evolve in the future. So enjoy all this webinar, and I remember also that at the end we will take a brief Q&A session, and so if you have some questions or about the presentation, please take note, and I'm pretty sure that Sabrina will be more than happy to answer to this question. Okay, Sabrina, so the stage is yours. When you are ready, please share your presentation and begin with the webinar. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much for this nice introduction. Can you see the presentation from this point on?
Yes.
Okay, then I will start. Thank you for introducing Capricorn Scientific and also myself. First of all, I would like to tell the story where I came to work with cell cultures for the first time. It was a lot of years ago in 2017 when I was working in a yeast cell culture lab, and we were aiming to do binding studies with our Baker's yeast cultures to different mammalian cell cultures, and therefore I ran to different work groups at the university and I asked them if it would be possible to introduce my yeast cell cultures to their cell culture labs. You can imagine how they reacted, and that was the point where I stopped to be that naive about cell cultures and learned really, really a lot from that time on. So I'm pretty happy to be here today and give this webinar about Fetal Bovine Serum. So as I'm part of the technical support team of Capricorn Scientific, I based this presentation on most occurring questions that I get during technical support. So there are some questions that I get like not weekly, but quite often. And I hope that this will help you today in terms of FBS handling, in terms of the different origins that the FBS can derive from, and also in terms of some manufacturing background that I have and I would like to share to you. So, okay, I think let's start. In the end of this talk, I will give something like a future perspective as on the market at this time. There is the emerge to develop products that are free from animal products, that are chemically defined. And I would like to use also the possibility of this webinar to elucidate the possible future landscape of cell culture media. So, okay, I guess we can start. The byproduct of the meat industry and established now for more than 60 years in cell culture. But of course, it is not only used as a cell culture supplement, but has various applications in the biotech industry and also in research that are far from cell culture media. First of all, I would like to make a short trip into history. So the story starts at 1882, which was the date where the first tissues could be cultivated in vitro. This was done by Mr. Ringer. He was able to dissect a frog heart and more or less cultivate it in a buffer solution. This one got pretty famous. It's called Ringer solution. And yeah, he was able to keep this dissected frog heart alive for several days in his buffer solution. Afterwards, in 1913, scientists were able to cultivate chicken fibroblasts for prolonged times. But of course, at this point, there were not chemically defined media existing, so they did it in embryonic extract mixed with blood plasma. So this was the first starting point of something like serum was used for cultivation of tissues or cells. A lot later, the first chemically defined medium was developed. It was medium 199, which probably most of you know. It is still used up to today and was initially formulated to be completely synthetic defined. Just 1 or 2 years later, the first cell line was developed by Henrietta Lacks. A tumor from her was dissected and then generated into an immortalized cell line. And then finally, in 1958, it was the first time that FBS was used as a cell culture supplement by Theodore Puck. And from this date on, it was uncontested as a cell culture supplement for various cell lines and cell types. Yeah, but what's in there that makes FBS so great? So there are more than 1,000 different components in FBS, but up to today, no one is really sure about all of them. They are not been identified. What we know is that FBS promotes uncontested viability and growth of these various cell types. Therefore, there are some things that are inside, for example, like growth factors that help the cells to proliferate, vitamins, of course, amino acids that boost the cellular metabolism, hormones, and of course, protease inhibitors that protect the cells. This overview is quite nice. Of course, you can make this as complicated as you wish. So this one goes a bit more into detail. It's about the 30 most abundant components of FBS, and you see that really a lot is in there. We have inorganic salts, we have sodium, chloride, potassium, we have glucose. The most abundant protein in blood in general is albumin. So of course we have also bovine serum albumin, or short BSA. We have hormones, we have insulin and vitamins. All this together forms this special nutrient cocktail that helps your cells to grow better. So as I have mentioned before, FBS is not only a supplement for cell culture media, but has several other applications. Also, due to the BSA that is in there, we know that BSA has high affinity binding to a lot of different proteins, and therefore it can be used for non-specific binding to reduce backgrounds in several research approaches, and therefore also FBS is also used a lot in diagnostic assays like ELISA. FBS can be used for coating of culture dishes, and there helps for promoted adhesion of different cell lines, and as we know, it also helps to inactivate trypsin. Today I would like to focus on FBS as a cell culture supplement that promotes growth, helps the adherent cell lines to adhere better, as there are some attachment factors in there that help the cells to adhere to plastic surfaces or other abiotic surfaces. We have a buffering effect, also due to the BSA, that can bind toxic components in the cell culture media that just will exist when the cells are cultivated for prolonged times. And the FBS inside the cell culture media will alter the viscosity of the cell culture medium and therefore protects the cells for shear forces. So now I would like to give an overview about the processing of FBS. This is something that might be pretty new for you, but I think it's interesting to hear about. So FBS, just a short overview for first sight, is a byproduct of the meat industry, especially in South America. We have big cow herds where a lot of meat is generated, so there are also a lot of cows. And the blood of fetuses in these cows is then obtained by cardiac puncture. I will go a bit more into detail in the next slides about this. Afterwards, raw serum is created by separation of cellular components and the plasma. And this raw serum then is processed in our facility by pooling and filtration. Afterwards, of course, we have a filling into the bottles and a quality control, and then the finally manufactured FBS can be supplied to you. So in South America, also in the US, also in Australia, we have really huge cow herds of thousands of individuals. And that's why there's an uncontrolled copulation of these cows. So there's no control whether a cow is pregnant or not. And from time to time, it can happen that a pregnant cow will end up in the abattoir. And if this happens, the fetus then can be dissected and the blood from these fetus is drained by cardiac puncture. So a syringe is attached to the heart of these fetus after dissection, and then the blood can be drained. This has the big advantage that the blood will not get in contact with anything from the environment, so it will be really pure and untouched, and therefore it's performed like this. One fetus will end up in 100 milliliter to 1 liter of serum in the end. So it depends on the age of the fetus, basically. After collecting the blood, it's collected in these kind of jugs and then can be further processed. So first of all, the cellular components have to be removed from the blood to obtain raw serum or plasma. So blood consists of a lot of different cellular components, and to remove this, the blood is first clotted and afterwards centrifuged in really high speed, huge centrifuges to get rid of these cellular components. Afterwards, the supernatant can then be removed and further processed as raw serum by removing also the fibrinogen. So this is an overview about the ingredients of blood. So we have about half cellular components and the other half is the plasma that we would like to use for creating the serum. To show this a bit more into detail, the serum part consists mainly of water. It's 95% of water, and the rest is these 1,000 components. No one is really sure about what's in there. It's proteins, it's electrolytes, trace elements, inorganic salts, and we have the cellular part. So these ones existing of basically thrombocytes, 300,000 per microliter, leukocytes, and also erythrocytes, a lot of them. And basically that's what in the cellular component part of the blood, which we don't need for serum production. So after collecting the supernatant, so the raw serum, it is frozen and transported to our facility where we can use this raw serum to produce FBS from it. So first of all, there's a pooling, a filtration, and a processing, and afterwards the filling and quality control. The processing of this raw serum starts with testing of the raw serum. So it has to be tested for endotoxin values, for viruses, to be really sure that the raw serum is untouched by anything harmful. Therefore, it is controlledly thawed, and to be really sure that no endotoxins are created during the process of thawing as well. So it's thawed overnight at 4 degrees while constantly stirring to be really sure that this process is absolutely flawless. Afterwards, fitting batches of serum are collected to manufacture the serum in the following steps. So after selection of these raw serum jugs of a few liters, pools are created up to 1,000 liters, and they are transferred to a disposable system. Therefore, first of all, this raw serum is collected on a fabric. So it's like a fleece with really huge pores. And the first filtering step, let's say, is filtering the raw serum through this fabric to get rid of last cellular components and impurities. Afterwards, the real filtration cascade is starting. So as two huge components would block the filters, we have a filtration cascade starting at a really huge filter, which is followed by smaller and smaller and smaller and really, really small pored filters for the processing of the FBS, ending up in 3 filters with a size of 0.1 micrometer to get rid of all possible viruses. Therefore, a sterile disposable system is used, and after this filtration, the serum is collected again and controlled, stirred overnight. Afterwards, the serum is totally homogenized and can be filled and labeled and is frozen and ready for optional treatments. I will dive into a bit deeper at the following slides. So something like heat inactivation can be performed afterwards. Of course, all these processes are then accompanied by various quality controls, like testing of the protein, of the endotoxin value, testing for the absence of viruses and bacteria and also fungi, and afterwards the serum can be released. So all in all, now we know that processing of FBS is quite a complex process, and yeah, though it is used up to this point, especially in research and academic sector, quite commonly, there are some drawbacks of FBS that I would like to elucidate right now. The first of them is the high price. We all know that FBS is comparably high in cost compared to different chemically defined cell culture media. The next point is it's a natural product, so it underlies variations, and for some applications, of course, especially in biotech industry, we don't want these variations. There's no space when you have a really defined process to get these variations into your process. It has an animal origin, so it's a non-defined product. And last but not least, the availability also depends on our personal meat consume. So yeah, these drawbacks are some reasons why there's the shift on the market at the moment to replace FBS supplemented media by chemically defined media. But already now I would like to make the point that all these drawbacks, of course, are most of the time are dependent on the point of view from where you are looking at it. So I would like to compare FBS supplemented media with chemically defined media right now. On one hand, FBS supplemented media are awesome because they are the one-fits-all solution. In most labs, you work with an RPMI with FBS supplemented and can use it for several cell lines. You don't need that specialized media, as FBS performs well for most cell lines. It's suitable for the academic sector, therefore, and there are a lot of established protocols and products that are adapted for cell culture media supplemented with FBS. Also, in some biotech sectors like animal vaccine production, FBS is still used broadly. On the other hand, of course, chemically defined media are especially demanded in the biotech industry, where reproducibility plays a major part, as well as the minimized risk for viral contaminations and providing constant quality in cell culture. So this is the point where we are at the moment. But from my personal point of view, FBS supplemented media is for most research absolutely fine to use. So coming now to the different FBS variants, as often when I'm doing this technical support, I get questions about if I would be providing this medium or if they should use this FPS with another medium for this cell line. And they often have the feeling that most people are not aware of how much variants, origins, and post-manufacturing treatments are existing on the market. So I would like to elucidate that for most applications, there really already is a specific product you can just use and be happy with it. So that's the point I would like to make in the following slides. So there are various origins. So FBS is not always FBS. The origin is especially of importance for biotech industry, but you can choose which one you would like to have if you know which are the differences. There are different variants of FBS. So I've mentioned there's this shift to more defined supplements and media, and therefore there's also the shift to FBS variants that are more defined. And there are treatment options that are far beyond just heat inactivation or gamma irradiation that I would like also to elucidate in the following slides. Coming to the countries of origin. Basically, there are 4 FBS sources on the market. It's FBS with origin USA, with origin Mexico, with Australia, and also with South America. These 4 origins serve different application fields. So the USA-derived FBS is especially of interest if you want to export the product that you produce, a biomanufacturing product, afterwards to the USA. That's the most common case where you need USA-derived FBS. So for all other approaches, you can use a more cost-efficient alternative. We use the rule of thumb. If you need FBS from a special origin, you most probably know it. If you don't know it, most probably you can use the cheap alternative that is EU approved from South America. So USDA approved from Mexico is the cheaper alternative for media FBS that is from USA, also used in academic and a lot in biomanufacturing fields. And for Australia, it's a bit like a special case, as it is promoted that in Australia, a lot of virus diseases that can bovine be affected of are just not existing. So that's why it is most often used in high-end biotech applications or for production of pharmaceutical drugs. But however, also the South American FBS is tested for all these viruses and it's totally fine. So I would like to make the point here that most probably it will be enough to use the South American version, especially as it is cheaper. However, no matter of the origin, there are some quality specifications that every FBS product should have. On one hand, it should be triple filtered through a 0.1 micrometer pore size filter. The endotoxin value should be determined and pretty low. Before you get it, it should be performance tested already on various cell lines. It should be virus tested and of course virus-free, fungi tested and fungi-free, and of course it should be free of mycoplasma. We have in total 3 different FBS products in our portfolio that I would like to introduce now, that are also provided by Prodotti Gianni. So we have a standard FBS. It's just natural FBS without any post-manufacturing treatments or additives. We have it from various origins, so from South America as well as from USA and Australia, and it's suitable for all cell types after qualification. So in general, we always recommend to test each serum batch of this prior to ordering larger amounts to be sure that it works for your cell line and your process. We have an advanced variant called FBS Advanced. So this one is created by a special selection of raw serum jugs, pooling it, and specially filtering and processing it to create reduced batch-to-batch variations. So the big advantage there is that after first qualifying this FBS Advanced, you do not necessarily need to do a qualification for every batch that you would like to order. This product is stabilized by BSA, so it boosts a bit more all this valuable features that FBS brings to that BSA brings to the cell culture. So buffering, binding of toxic biocomponents, and yeah, just boosting your cell culture. Last but not least, we have FBS Extra. This one is a special product for us as it goes a bit more in the direction of chemically defined supplements. We developed it together with a university in Frankfurt, Germany, and tried to reduce the serum content of this FBS as much as we could. And to maintain the performance of it, we added recombinant proteins to it to make it also this nutrient cocktail that natural FBS is. Therefore, as it is more defined, we have minimal batch-to-batch variations, and also might be of interest for you as the serum content is reduced, of course. Yeah, it's really price efficient. Coming to the treatments of FBS. There are various treatments. The most popular one, I guess, is heat inactivation, but there are some more that might be of interest depending on the application that you have with your FBS product. We provide gamma irradiation, protein dialysis, charcoal stripping, tetracycline testing, and really many others. So I would like to go through them now briefly. Heat inactivation is the most popular treatment for FBS, and it is used by a lot of scientists that perform that by themselves. It's controlled heating in a water bath for 30 minutes at 56 degrees and leads to inactivation of the complement system. This is, of course, especially of interest when working with the complement system components in your cell culture. Sometimes it is also used when culturing sensitive cell lines like mouse embryonic stem cells. But for all other cell cultivation approaches, we not recommend doing heat inactivation, as we are in the opinion that it destroys more of the FBS components than it helps. So due to this high temperature, some proteins can be degraded, especially when people do it by themselves in the lab. Their temperature control is not that defined as it can be in an industrial heat inactivation chamber, and that's why precipitates can occur. And all in all, we're not such huge fans of heat inactivation. Of course, there can be some certain cases where it makes sense, but all in all, most of the time it is not necessary to do so. So if you're considering if you would like to do heat inactivation or if it's necessary, always feel free to get in touch with us, and you can ask us and we can get into a discussion and figure out if you should do it or not. Gamma irradiation is a way to inactivate all potential viruses that could be in the serum. So it's for strongly regulated biotech fields where you have to be really sure that there's nothing in there. For example, in animal vaccine production or other highly sensitive application areas. Due to gamma irradiation, the virus DNA is directly damaged, or by occurring reactive oxygen species. Due to this reactive oxygen species that are occurring during irradiation, of course, this can slightly affect the protein stability and performance, but all in all, it is a more slight way to treat your FBS. Protein dialysis can be especially of interest when working with FBS, where in applications where small compartments or small particles can interfere. For example, for all applications that are accompanied by mass spectrometry analysis, we use a dialysis membrane with an exclusion size of 10 kilodalton and performed dialysis against a physiological sodium chloride solution to exclude really just small proteins and amino acids. For example, this can be of interest when doing ZLAC analysis. Charcoal stripping is not well enough promoted from my point of view because it's awesome when you're working with steroid hormones, for example, or do other hormone-dependent researches. So for charcoal stripping leads to reduction of steroid hormones in the FBS, which is especially of use for hormone-dependent research. And we achieve this by filtering the FBS post-manufacturing via an additional charcoal membrane, and the hormones will then stick to the membrane, and therefore the content will be reduced in the serum afterwards. So we have a reduction about 2 to 3 folds, which you can see it is indicated on the right side of this presentation. These are the threshold values that are tested. And of course, if you need to know about other hormones, it is a testing that we can do. Tetracycline testing is especially of interest when working with TET expression systems. So for example, if you're about to create a cell line that has a TET inducible promoter, so TET on system, or if you're working with a TET off system, you of course need FBS where no tetracycline is included, because otherwise you would uncontrollably turn on or off your promoter of your gene of interest. Therefore, we provide this testing. We have really low detection thresholds for detection of tetracycline, and most of the time this works out really, really well, and people can use the serum without fearing that it will interfere with their expression system. There are some other treatments I would like to go through really briefly. On one hand, it's testing for embryonic stem cell performance, because of course there are applications where really sensitive cells are cultivated like embryonic stem cells, and they are not allowed to differentiate, and therefore we do performance tests quite before to be sure, and we use really only highest quality of FBS to protect these cells. Another thing is low endotoxin batches. For sensitive applications, we provide 9CFR tested FBS, and also we provide IgG stripped FBS, which is especially of interest when working with hybridoma cell cultures for antibody production. So now I would like to come to the last part of this presentation. It's about FBS handling, and just treat some more frequently occurring questions during technical support. So I am asked pretty often, what is the difference between fetal bovine serum, newborn calf serum, and adult bovine serum, and which one of them do I need? The second question I would like to handle, I get also really often, is my FBS shows precipitates. Is this normal? Can I still use this? Is it a common contamination? And I would like to elucidate a workflow to handle this problem. Also, I would like to elucidate the question why FBS has sometimes so many different colors. And in the end, I will give you some handling tips. So what is the difference between FBS, NCS, CS, and ABS? So we talked a lot now about fetal bovine serum. It's prenatal, so it's derived from fetuses. These fetuses had never contact to the environment, and therefore, of course, this is the product of highest quality. It's really low in antibodies and antibiotics. In comparison, newborn calf serum is derived from individuals that are younger than 10 days. Therefore, for some cell culture approaches, it can be used as a cost-efficient alternative, as also these animals didn't get quite much in contact with the environment, and their blood, let's say, is also still really, really fresh. Of course, this has to be tested in your lab as well, but for some applications, NCS can be an alternative to FBS. The older the animals get, the lower the quality will be, of course. So calf serum is obtained by individuals that are up to 1 year old. Therefore, the protein amount is significantly higher than in FBS, but for some short-term cultures or cultivation approaches, it can be still used. For adult bovine serum, it's obtained from cows that are older than 1 year. It has relatively high antibiotic or antibody and protein content, may contain antibiotics more probably than the other ones. And it's more likely for control assays and not that much for cell culture. Of course, for some robust cell lines could be used, but I would go with the other alternatives there. Okay, FBS shows precipitates. Is it a contamination? Sometimes I really get pictures of customers and they are not quite sure about if their FBS is contaminated. Most of the time, it's not a contamination. Sometimes the FBS is really rich on nutrients, or there's still some fibrinogen, some lipids that form precipitates, or this can occur, but it's not due to bad quality of FBS or due to a contamination. It's totally normal and you don't have to worry about this. So if you're not sure if the precipitates in your FBS are a contamination or something bad, just check if the bottle is still sealed or if you performed aliquots. If the bottle is still sealed, you can just send a picture to Prodotti Gianni team or to us, and we will help you out. Otherwise, what you can do if you have aliquoted the FBS is that you simply take a sample and investigate under the microscope by yourself. So you can check how big these particles are, because most contamination like fungi or bacteria are really, really small and smaller than usual precipitates are in the serum. So yeast, normal baker's yeast, has a size from 5 to 10 micrometers. Bacteria like E. coli have a size of like 1 micrometer, and these precipitates are a lot bigger and they do not move. So this is a thing where you can distinguish between contamination and between just particles which will not harm your cell culture. If you cannot work with these particles in your FBS, you can just get rid of them by decanting the FBS in a new sterile bottle. Just fill it and leave the precipitates on the bottom of the old bottle in there. Otherwise, you can just refilter the FBS with a bottle top filter with huge pore size of 0.45 micrometers. And in case that you're not sure what to do, always feel free to send us pictures and get in touch with us. I mean, in the end, we get paid to help you, so feel free. So the color of FBS can have different reasons. Mainly, it is caused by hemoglobin content. So the hemoglobin content can vary on a natural basis and strongly influences the FBS color. Therefore, also different treatments like gamma irradiation can lead to degradation of hemoglobin, and that's by gamma irradiated FBS, for example, sometimes occurs a bit lighter. And also due to different products, like products with reduced serum content, like our FBS Extra, they can also occur lighter, but all of this is not a matter of quality. Even if you have an FBS with a high hemoglobin value, which is really dark in color, it has nothing to do with the quality of this product. It's just due to being a natural product. So last but not least, I would like to give some handling tips on FBS. This is also a question I get pretty often. The first thing I would like to promote here is to really try to reduce free store cycles. The best way is, if you get the FBS, just directly aliquote it, put it to the freezer, and just thaw the amount that you need. So preparing aliquots and doing also a controlled thawing is something that we really recommend to avoid protein degradation or instabilization of some components in the FBS. If you don't have time to do aliquotation, or if you're tired of aliquotation, we have a more or less, we have a new product. It's called FBS Minis, and it's our pre-aliquoted solution of FBS. So you will get such a nice box from the Prodotti team with 10 pre-aliquoted FBS Minis of 50 milliliters, and they are just ready to use. We provided for all FBS variants, so for standard FBS as well as FBS Advanced and Extra for all treatments that we have in our portfolio. And therefore, they are just easy to handle. You save a lot of time, of course, because you don't have to do it anymore by yourself. And another big advantage is that we do the filling in an industrial clean room, so there's no risk at all for something to happen. It saves plastic waste. It's easy to store because you have this nice box. To be honest, I brought it here because I love this box. I would like to show it to you now. So it's really, really cool. We have on my desk, I have the version with sweets because I love sweets. But in the end, it just helps you to make your storage a bit easier because you don't have any more these bottles, but this nice box. One of the biggest advantages from my personal point of view is that you don't have this labeling anymore. You don't have to write 10 times the name of the product, the lot of the product, your name and your date. And yeah, it's just a lot easier. And you reduce the free thaw cycles in the end. So yeah, in the end of this presentation, of course, I would like to show the products that we provide once more. It's our standard SBS standard, natural FBS from various origins, which can be used for like most types of cell lines. We have an FBS advanced with a reduced lot-to-lot variations and this awesome stabilizer BSA into it. We have our FBS extra with reduced serum content and minimal lot-to-lot variations, and our FBS Minis, the possibility to save time, space, and a lot of nerves. So I would like to come back to my initial question if I think that the future landscape of cell culture media will shift back to, or towards chemically defined media. Up to this point, up to today, I guess FBS supplemented media are broadly used, especially in academic research, and I think it will stay like this for the next years as well, because it's just easy. There are established protocols, and of course, today are also some serum-free alternatives, so they're not chemically defined but supplemented with, for example, BSA or other animal components. These could be used as an alternative as well. But yeah, I think on a really, really long-term basis, the shift will go towards the chemically defined media. But up to this point, a lot of time will proceed as therefore, we need really specialized media for different cell types. We need really to find out what makes FBS such a complex nutrient mixture that it is. And yeah, try to reproduce this in the lab. And you are the lab specialists. You know how hard it is sometimes to reproduce things that we see in the nature. So coming to the end of this presentation, I am open to answer your questions. If some questions are occurring, maybe, I don't know, today in the evening or tomorrow or whenever, feel free to get in touch not only with the Prodotti team, but also with us. So send us a message to techservice@capricorn-scientific.com. Most probably I will answer you then, or feel free to give us a call whenever you need to. So thank you for the possibility to give this webinar. It was a lot of fun to me, and now I'm open to your questions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sabrina, for your presentation.